everybody. The time is now 6:03 p.m. Welcome back, everyone, from our short summer hiatus. This is the Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Committee of the City of Twinsburg, and we're happy to see everybody here. So first and foremost, I'm going to go ahead with our roll call. Emmanuel Ogbobi. Here. Crystal Davis. Here. Akil Hamid.
Here.
Asia James. Andrea Stone.
Here.
Jeffrey Tyus.
Here.
Ted Yates.
Here.
Greg Bellin.
Here.
Maureen Stoffer. Here. Daisy Walker.
Present.
David Maestros.
Here.
Marnie Zellner. Jeremy Mahort.
Here.
Michael Brown. Shannon Collins. And Jess Sumrak. All right, there we go. Okay, so first things first, I see we have a few folks in our audience. Do we have anybody signed up for audience participation? I don't believe so. That's okay. All right, hearing no one, I do see him sitting in the front row, so we will welcome our new chief. Chief, do you have anything you'd like to share with the committee?
No, just good to see everybody. I got to attend a couple of the meetings before break. I do plan on making everything I can going forward. We'll know what we're doing, and it's gonna be good. I just want to show up, say hi.
Well, thank you. We're happy to have you here.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
All right, so folks, our intern has been super busy during our hiatus, so we're gonna start the, the substantive portion of the evening with some updates from Jess. And then in particular, our subcommittee chairs, if there are things that you want to discuss with her, I want to make sure that you all make that connection this evening. So Jess, will you give us some updates on what you're working on?
Absolutely. So thank you again for letting me join your committee. I really appreciate that. I just want to start with that. So I've been here on duty for about 2 weeks now, about 10 hours each week, keeping myself busy by really getting enmeshed in what's already been done, watching the videos, seeing what you've already accomplished and what your future goals are. And three of the things I've really focused on are one, the Jedi community video, creating some sort of community survey and going over the city of Twinsburg demographic employment data and how it relates to the new census information that's now been out. Some updates on each of those individually. I had a meeting with Mary Kidd with Community Focus to discuss the Jedi community video on 9/8, and she does go on vacation 9/16 for a week, just so you know, because I'll be asking for something from you in just a minute. We discussed the video organization and the layout. We discussed some of the ideas we threw out there was that we would do individual interviews with each of the members of the committee and the resident members of the 7. And each of the chairs would have talking points about the individual subcommittees. And then the additional 4 members would talk about the acronyms. So one would talk about justice, one would talk about inclusion, etc. So there's not a lot of overlap in talking points. It would be very interesting moving forward to create a whole video. And then from that main video, individual 2 to 3 minute snippets would be used for social media push as well. So that's kind of what we're looking for there. She wants to come to the next full meeting on October 11th to do a filming of this meeting so that she can use some of that material as well. So just so you're all aware, you might be on camera at that moment as well. I want to give you a heads up. Let's see. So one of the things I'd love for, if everybody's okay with this plan, if that's the direction you'd like to go, we just need to set up interview dates. So if everyone could, she's got a lot of openings of October. So if that's the direction we choose to go, then if everyone could just let me know at least 3 dates in October that work for them for an individual interview time, that would be great. We're also looking at some location outside that looks really nice in the fall, and with a backup interior plan as well, just in case it rains or something. So that would be the Jedi community video. The community survey, so I've been researching surveys distributed by other local governments on equity, inclusion, and diversity in the U.S. Also looking through current academic research on how these surveys are best implemented. The goal is to have valid and reliable survey questions that accurately measure what we're intending to measure. So not just making questions that may not actually reflect what we want them to reflect. I've found and compiled this information and created a draft of a community survey for committee member review. It includes like multiple choice, Likert questions, as well as open response questions to gauge a full range of information from our community. Distribution is a significant factor that I've been looking into to reach the largest minority members in our community as well. So it's something I was trying to look into as well. Now, as it comes to City of Twinsburg demographic employment data, I know this has been really well researched already. Everybody's looked into, and I know there's been some movement in the right direction. Michael's done great things in his role. But I have reached out, he's recommended actually that I reach out to surrounding communities, including Streetsboro, Hudson, Chagrin Falls, Solon, Macedonia, and Aurora for their city employment demographics by race and gender for benchmarking purposes. And so what I found out, and I did a public records request, only 2 cities, Streetsboro and Solon, had any data available on the racial makeup of their employees. So this implies that simply looking at this information is a step in the right direction. So we're doing something right just doing that. And I have that document, that Excel spreadsheet, and I'll leave any other inferences up to the council to make if you'd like to review that, and I can email that to you. And then, let's see, I've also been looking into action steps to promote the committee's goals throughout the community. Most cities that have implemented a committee of this sort have followed the same steps as this council, so I wanted to let the group know that as far as I've found, you guys are on the right track and exactly where you need to be for how long you've been together. And I've compiled an additional list of action steps completed by others, and I'm welcome to email them or discuss them as whatever, or if you'd like to going forward. And then a new thing today is we were looking into getting a logo design for the JEDI committee. So I've emailed, his name's Ryan Kennedy, and I have a meeting with him next week on logo design, so please let me know anything you'd like me to share with him on the direction for that as well. One last thing, we did discuss during the video about if we wanted to go into Star Wars direction for the JEDI committee for the video. So let me know your thoughts on that. I was more looking to keep it more serious to make sure that the community knows that we are really serious about this initiative and not more of a tongue-in-cheek kind of thing. But let me know your thoughts and how you would like me to approach that as well. And that is everything I've been working on.
Excellent. Thank you, Jess. So at this time, we'll open the floor for questions. Jess has been super busy. No questions? Crystal?
Yeah, I think, thank you for all of your hard work. I know that even getting people on the phone is tough these days, so being able to track down this much information in that short amount of time is impressive. What I think is probably, in my opinion, more important than a logo and even a video. I know that there's rationale for the video, but I'd rather focus in on this survey and what are the action items, and then revisit the conversation around getting a consultant to advise us on actionable steps. I'm afraid that we'll get really bogged down in some superficial exposure opportunities without making substantive impact. And so I think it's great to define JEDI, make a video, get a logo, get some t-shirts. I want to have an impact when I leave here so that this is worth everybody's time. And the community will have something important to tell the committee more than the fact that we met and we got a really cool logo. I want to say this is what we intend to do, and these are the action steps that we're going to take, our work plan for getting those accomplished. And so that is most pertinent to me and most timely, in my opinion.
Thank you, Crystal. So, Jess, I know that Michael is handling most of the search process, but is there anything that you can share with us about what he's working on in terms of the consult?
Not at this time. Him and I have not communicated to that respect at this moment.
Okay, thank you. So, Crystal, I will share that I reached out to Michael, and he is in the process of vetting a couple of different people, and I kind of hope that he would be here tonight so we could get a little more information. So I want you to know that coming out of the last meeting, I think that was kind of one of our biggest pushes, is to make sure that we figure out whether we need the RFP or we're able to find somebody and vet them. But I think that's kind of landed in Michael's wheelhouse because he's also trying to figure out where funding's coming from. So, for sure. Not forgotten, not even tabled. We just don't have enough information to really delve into it tonight. that you are heard.
Michael's intent was to be here tonight. He was out sick last week. Did a rapid test, and the doctor wants him to follow up today with a regular COVID test. And versus bringing him in here, I decided to keep him out of here.
Well, we hope Michael is well. And I will reach out to him and ask him to share, once he's back to work via email, the information that he has. So that way we're all on the same page. Andrea?
Yeah, I think I'm on the same lines as Crystal, because my first question when you were going through that, and I'm going to be honest, I think I caught like 50% of what you were saying because I was taking notes at the same time and you had a lot of good information. But one of the things I wrote down was when you were talking about the surveys, one of the most important things are what are we intending to measure? Because I'm not quite sure, even with the community outreach, our subcommittee, I didn't even know if the subcommittee is going that way. I mean, the last discussion we had was, what is the subcommittee actually going to be doing? Is it community outreach in terms of a survey and seeing how the community feels about diversity and inclusion and all of that? Or is it making programs, having a MLK Day, having a Juneteenth Day, having some more celebrations and doing that, like more of a, I wouldn't say a party planning group, but basically that type of community outreach, as opposed to knocking on doors and doing surveys. I mean, in my limited knowledge, I don't really think people actually fill out surveys. If you gave out 500 to 1,000 surveys, how many would we actually get back? So that would be like a little bit of my concern with that, as opposed to let's celebrate diversity by having diverse events. To me, you would reach more people, because that would be something that people would want to go to, just like they go to Rock the Park. And even there, I look at the lineup for Rock the Park. A lot of the talent that comes in seems to be a little bit of the same. So my idea is, like, I think before jumping there, and maybe this goes back to where are we going, because I'm not quite sure if that subcommittee has even thought about that yet, to be honest.
So LaBelle, let me ask a question. Is the consultant around employment, or is it really around helping us to define who we are? And what's going to be the goal? And the reason I'm asking that, because all of these conversations, I think it leans back to maybe we need to have like a work planning day with a facilitator, and we can kind of whiteboard, maybe have some guests from the community in, and we leave that day with a plan of action on where we're going. And it's part from the community, it's us. We're not confined to a 1 hour meeting and trying to determine where we're going, and then subcommittees when people can't make it, and it's just not it's a strategic assessment essentially is what we're doing for our group. And maybe we owe that to ourselves as the commitment to be on this group, that we got to commit some time to go into a room, close the door, and figure that out. Because I would say to Jess that that's great information, everything that you gave. I applaud you for the time spent, and you are only going off of the direction that was given to you. So it is what it is, but we need to maximize her time as well. If we're going to have her working on things, we need to make sure that she's working in the right direction. So that's my recommendation, is that we figure that out, and I know schedules don't permit half the time, but we, if we're here, then we got to figure that out. We need to make it happen so that we don't keep having this conversation.
I fully agree. So to not step out of line, I'm just going to read what Michael sent me because this is the information that I have. So his response to my ask as to whether, I told him I wanted to clarify whether he was looking into an overall consultant to be leveraged by the committee as a whole, or someone to lead some of the discussions that we talked about during our July meeting. His response was, the thought is to vet consultants to assist in driving the discussion, which is what I thought was the ask. I'm working out budgetary needs as well, because I'm not sure how much this person is going to cost. But as I mentioned in our last meeting, I reached out to 2 people already and have a third that I want Jess to connect with. As soon as I have more information, I'll be happy to share with you and the full committee. So I would be comfortable at this point saying, you know, perhaps we want to put a motion on the floor that we want to have that consultant come in and kind of help us level set before we move forward with some of these things, bearing in mind that, you know, we kind of have a leg up because Jess has already done this work. So if that's agreeable, the chair will entertain a motion. Thank you, Akil. Is there a second?
Second.
So seconded, all in favor? Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, the motion carries. So we will hold off on moving forward with the work that Jess has done, pending a little more discussion and the buy-in of the consultant.
And real quickly, we can submit alternate consultants, right? Because it sounds like he has like a couple of people in mind, but I know there are other people that do this work.
We just had to submit them because I was trying to submit. I think somebody asked before,
I think it might have been Michael.
and I know I was working on someone, but she didn't have the time to do it. So I think we just need to send them.
Okay.
So I don't want to step out of line here, but if you all know somebody, please do reach out to Michael.
Great.
I know we had talked about having somebody local, and the folks that I know aren't. So please do reach out to Michael, and if you need any assistance making that happen, let me know.
I know that email that I sent earlier. I don't know if we want to check with what was that, Fairview,
That's a great point.
and check and see if they have a consultant over there working, because I mean they're doing the whole JEDI program over there, which may be worth reaching out and seeing. I don't know if Mayor, if that's something you have a connection over at Fairview to see who they're using, but.
So I know, and Jess can kind of fill us in a little bit. I'm sorry, I got busy this afternoon and didn't get to respond to your email. But Akil had shared with us that Fairview Park City Schools are partnering with the Diversity Center of Northeast Ohio. So we thought we should find out more about these people, and maybe that's an option for us. And Jess, can you tell us what you found?
I did a preliminary look through their website and watched some of their mission statements, things like that. And what I found is they are predominantly work with youth programs and corporate leadership. There are other organizations out there, work more like with local government and communities, and I'm not sure if that would be a better partner than the one that the Fairview Schools partnered with. But that's just what I discovered.
And I will say that the City of Akron also has a similar committee, and so perhaps we should connect with those folks and see who they're using for things.
Maybe that's something, Jess, that you could do.
Yeah.
I mean,
I can give you the name of their charities.
just find out who other cities are working with as far as their JEDI committees, because I think pretty much every major city is doing that. Like the city of Cleveland has people, so I think that would be a good idea.
Quick question.
Absolutely.
So, should we go forward with subcommittees, or should we wait until we've had an opportunity to have this meeting?
That is an excellent question, and the floor is open for discussion.
I would say that the subcommittee, if you have information that's need to be analyzed, just like we did for our committee, I would say we go forward with that. As we get through the data ourselves, to be familiar with that.
Yeah.
But maybe not plan anything.
Yeah, I think so. So we're on the community outreach one. That one I think is a little bit up in the air, to Andrea's point about kind of which direction we're going to go. The other two are what are
Employment.
yeah, and I don't know. Again, I haven't been to those, but to your point, I don't know that those are necessarily hinging on the decisions that this body is going to make. So I guess I would defer to you guys.
And I believe at our last meeting, we talked about how all of the committees will essentially be involved in some form of community outreach.
Mm-hmm.
Did we decide to get rid of the community outreach altogether? I can't remember.
I think we tabled it with the understanding that it should be something that we're discussing in every subcommittee, because there should be an element of that in everything that we're doing.
Yeah, I think we said committee of the whole, like everybody as a group would discuss community outreach because it's gonna touch all of us.
Should we reallocate the bodies assigned to community outreach to individual committees then? I mean, because Greg and I are on community outreach.
Yeah,
We haven't had a meeting yet. I mean, so.
We had one.
But I don't want us,
Yeah.
I don't want us to be disengaged in things that are going on in the other committees. So if that's something that the group wants to, and, you know, and I think addressing your point regarding, the video and stuff and defining what we want from the community, because Greg and I bring to the table, and Daisy and Maureen, is our community is difficult to engage. So my only thought with the video was it at least lets them know that this is going on, these are the people involved. Because when we try to push it out with our faces and our voices like a survey, when there's no other connection to this committee, it falls on deaf ears a lot of times. So I want to make sure that the group and the city understands that there is discussions going on, there are people involved and that are residents that are part of the community. So it wasn't to try to get any kind of just publicity or anything. It was more to try to pull in engagement of our city and say, okay, we want to hear your voice and we want you to participate. To me, that was kind of a lead into the survey to hopefully get more participation in it versus just getting us out there publicly for any other reason.
And I don't think we're losing that here. I don't. I think we will all feel better if we have the opportunity to have somebody come in and kind of, I don't want to say rubber stamp, but really say, yeah, this makes sense. What you're doing makes sense. I've seen it work here. I've seen the pitfalls there. And then I do think it's important, if we are moving forward with a survey, to make sure that the people in our community know who's behind it and the why, right? You always got to start with the why. So really taking the opportunity at that point to go out and introduce ourselves. Now, that being said, I do think it's important that there is some kind of presence. So I'm interested in hearing you all's thoughts on what that looks like in advance of or simultaneously with, working with this consultant, because, we're almost touching a year since racism was declared a public health crisis in Twinsburg, and I think it's important that our community recognizes that the city has been proactive in doing something, and that, there are members of the community who are also involved. So I don't know what that looks like, but I'm really interested in y'all's thoughts and ideas on that.
And there's a way to still do the video and just acknowledge that we're here. We acknowledge it. There's bodies that are committed to the cause, and we are looking to move forward with change, and change is coming. Our goal is to bring in consultants and, backfill, what our thoughts are so that we can really roll out a positive program and image for the community under this JEDI committee. So I think if that becomes the overlying, mission of the video, then we probably could still move forward with the video. And it's really just an introduction to the committee as a whole, and it being created as an initiative under the mayor.
Yeah, as we were sitting here listening to everyone, I was thinking about that. Like, would we be able to continue with the video with a more standard message, or would meeting with the consultant help as far as the message in that video?
Mm-hmm.
Say more about that.
You know what I'm
when you say
saying?
message.
So help us develop the idea of what we're trying to accomplish through this group. So, and that's what that's what the aim of the consultant will be. So we can put that kind of a message is stronger in a video, but we could still, once again, it just all depends on what we want to do. We could do a very standard, this is who we are, this is what we're trying to do, but I think the consultant and their ideas and things like that can help us develop that message in a way that's stronger, maybe more powerful. Just something to think about. Sharing this hands.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Shannon.
Real quick, one thing, if you guys can leave board and talk into the mics, so.
Okay.
Second, I think with the video, you could probably do your introduction one and then have follow-up after the consultant too. To have like, let them know during your message in the initial of who you are, that there's more to come, and continue with video segments with more detailed information. But also maybe just a timeline of what you guys are expecting, so Jess and I can kind of work to meet goals.
Absolutely, I appreciate that. So, I mean, that was definitely a question, is do we have the ability to do 2 separate sets of videos, I guess? So that would be, something very, I don't want to say generic, but introductory.
Yeah, I think Community Focus is, again, our partner for our, if you want to call it, local channel that, so they have the equipment, the studio, they can come here on site and just take care of it for us. So it's a nice partnership they have, because, I mean, they're always looking to the communities that they work with, just whatever they can to help produce, to get out. And this may be something that, I don't know if people watch the local channel anymore. I haven't in years and years, but I see.
You're not supposed to say that.
I don't even know if there's a local channel. Everything may just be like video fed now.
Yeah.
Like I do my mayor's report and it gets like sent and it goes to social media. So I don't know, but I probably should know that. But I'm just saying they're a good partner that they're not saying one and out, you're done. I mean, I think they would work with us. If that's what the group decides to do, that's fine. I understand. I agree with you. I think we're going to get a lot more direction in a lot of different ways once we have someone else here that is directing us.
Yeah, and I do think there is value, Lavelle, to your point, and Crystal, we have been at this almost a year, but it's not that we haven't done anything, right? I mean, so I do think there's value in, I don't know if it's a press release or a social media poster or something like that. I don't know if you guys are familiar, already out on My Twinsburg, they already have the description of the committee, they've got all of our agendas, all of our minutes, and links to all the videos. So I think at the very least, maybe we can put together hey, here's what we've accomplished, in this year. Because to your point, I mean, it's not, it might feel like it sometimes, but there actually has been a lot done in this last year. And I'm sure that we all would like to move faster, but there's reasons that we are going at the pace we're going.
On that, Jess, I think I heard you say at the beginning that you have that you have reviewed all the videos.
Yes.
Did you happen to take notes when you reviewed them? Because I'm thinking that maybe, to Greg's point, if you could give us a bullet point of some of those agendas and what we've accomplished, and actually seeing it on paper, and then also, if we're doing this video, I'm pretty sure at the very beginning of this we started talking about what some of those goals and everything were. I'm sure I have it written down somewhere. I'm sure Lavelle has it written down. But if you also could look at that and bounce off ideas of this is what the justice and police relations, this is what the employment people are doing, and this is what the community would like to do. I think that would be helpful to actually see it on a piece of paper, in a bullet point form to do that. Because I know there's one meeting that I rambled off a whole bunch of stuff that at least the employment group was doing, and I know that you've done the same with the police group, and I think that would be good to have down. And I also say, we need to have a script. If we're doing this video, I think that it needs to be scripted, so we are all on the same page of what we're going to say and know what we're going to say. So I don't know what you guys think about that, but I would prefer to have it scripted a little bit.
So in response to the videos and the notes, I absolutely can do that. I did not take notes during the time. Truthfully, I want to say that Lavelle sent me all her notes, and they were amazing and probably the most all-encompassing of anything I've read for what you guys are doing. And I could totally take hers and bullet point what she's got and send it out with her permission. The only problem I ran into with doing it with the videos only is I found that not all of them had a video associated with it, not all the meetings. And I didn't find videos for meetings that weren't the full committee.
Yeah.
Only the full one, and not all of them. And there was a lot of you guys making decisions, but unfortunately, like it's like the mission statement, right? When you decided what the mission statement was, it was written down, but not something that was presented via video. So I think it has to be a combination of notes plus video for me to really give you the full grasp of what has been accomplished over the time.
So I will ask, and I think I sent an email, but if anybody, any of the subcommittee leaders do have your notes, like Jeff, I know you usually will send something. Can you just forward that to Jess, and then she can incorporate all of that into one giant document? If anybody else has notes that Jess could use, feel free to share those.
Yeah,
We'll
I'll
just
compile
pile
all
it
of
out
them.
in paper.
No, that's no problem. I can compile all of them and provide you guys with what you've accomplished, action items agreed on, things like that. I can give you a list and send it out to everybody.
That would be great.
The one concern I have about multiple videos, which is fine, I think that's great, and it allows us an opportunity to continue to have a relationship with the community and keeping them apprised of what's going on, is that I don't want there to be a significant lapse in time between, hey, this is who we are, to this is what we're doing. I think that the first video will be a point at which the community starts to hold us accountable. And so I want to be responsive in a timely fashion, because I think, not that anybody is thinking of this frivolously, but I just want to make sure that after this first video, they know what we're doing, we know what we're doing, we're going in with the consultant, I don't care if it's a full day meeting or a half day meeting, and we hash it out and have a work plan, but then we can go back and be accountable in short order to the community. So that's really important to me. And I think that one of the opportunities we have with this video and anything else we do is to lift up minority vendors. And so I know there might be mixed reviews on that. No mixed reviews here. I have a preference for minority vendors, and I think that is something that can be established through this committee, so that those numbers can also add to our minority employment numbers with the city.
Those are great points. Mayor, are we able to get an understanding of the breakdown for community focus and the folks who will be working on the video
Breakdown of,
in terms of demographics?
no, you're talking about who the city uses for vendors, right?
Right. So what I'm saying is, I know that for this video, we were talking about using the public access channel and
Right.
the staff associated with that.
Right.
If there's anything else, we're talking about white papers or some kind of pamphlet that goes out to the committees or a mailer or something. There are minority vendors that can do any of these things. So if we come out of this and we use a whole bunch of non-minority vendors, that's not going to be a win for me.
Yeah, I think, well, community focus is free, so,
But it's not. That's why we got a committee. You know what I mean?
I'm sorry, I don't understand that.
What I'm saying is that what happens is there often is it's not equitable in terms of awarding contracts, not just Twinsburg, but everywhere. It's not equitable.
Well, I understand that. I understand your point, but what I'm saying is that I reached out to Community Focus because I would rather preserve dollars for a consultant than do an RFP, select a vendor to do a video, when I have someone that has tremendous technology and the willingness to come here for free and provide that service. So, I mean, that was my.
I get you. No, when you said community focus, I thought you meant like, no, we're just going to focus on, I didn't know that was the name of it. Yeah, it's community, but it's not equitable.
Yeah,
so.
No, that's the name.
Yeah, got you. Thank you.
Of who's actually doing the video, so, but, yeah, I think, I agree, I think producing a video and the timing of release of the video are two separate things, so, I mean, we've done some of these, and so it doesn't happen, like, it's not gonna happen like a week from now. I mean, by the time people get videoed and it gets, everything gets put together and how it's all organized and all that, it could be December before we're ready to put the thing out. So that's, I guess that's where, and from your point, I think we all have a different comfort level. I mean, I don't script anything, so. And so, I would rather stand up and talk from the heart and let it flow, and you know, so people all have different ways. So I think, you know, I think Jessica's looking at bullet points that can direct conversation in a video, and look, I'm not trying to push a certain way or not, so however you guys want to do it. I just, in terms of engaging, you know, that's all. I want it to be professionally done, and I want it to be something that everyone's proud of. That's the goal, you know.
Is this something that we can, for all of it, the video, the logo, the consultant, and meeting with him or her, is this something that we can try to have a due date or release date, so we release it all at the same time? You know, obviously meet with the consultant first, but then, you know, create the video, do the logo, and then have it all released by a certain date.
So before we get, I guess, we have, the Ryan Kennedy she was referring to is someone we have on staff here that's one of our marketing individuals that helps design and do stuff on social media and other things. So the logo was not intended to like start like branding and t-shirts and all that kind of stuff. It was just more of, we put our name on a lot of things, and I'm big on consistency. I mean, when I started as mayor, we had 4 different logos being circulated on letterhead and everything, and it drove me crazy. So it could be very simple, or, you know, I just was thinking it just for consistency purposes, as we start producing more and getting our name out there, just to have something. So maybe logo's not the right word, but you know, something that just is the same.
I think my only concern with trying to nail that down now is that I would really like to have Michael's input in terms of where he is and the amount of time that he thinks is reasonable to bring somebody in. So if you all are okay with either tabling that or kind of communicating that by email between now and our next meeting, depending on when we're able to get a hold of Mike, that would be, that's my preference, that's just me, so.
So we can't come out with a date yet until we know a date for the consultant anyway.
Exactly.
So if I understand correctly, we all agree that we're gonna have a video.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Good.
We do agree that there will be a video, at least one.
Good. And then the consultant we're gonna have is gonna help us navigate through that, in and out. That's good. I think that I kind of echo what Yeti said about the timing. If we want to do this and do it with any project, we need to have a timeline for it. If Michael is looking for, you know, consulting somebody, I think it would be good to just say, hey, by end of November, we want to get these things nailed down. So it will help us if we know that we have a time, then we work toward that time. Right. I think it will be in our best interest if we do that.
Additional thoughts on timeline?
I agree. I mean, I mean, hopefully Michael will be in tomorrow, and I can have a discussion with him on, I mean, the most urgent timeline is probably the consultant and who we're going to engage, how we're going to engage them, what's going to be their scope, those kind of things. So I'll try to pin him down to get communications out to committee on that.
Does Michael need additional capacity to do that? Because I think we had talked about it in a previous meeting, making sure that we weren't disproportionately burdening him as one of the few employees of color, and I know this is his area, but making sure that if there is some additional assistance even we can bring, he can call on us to help vet the consultants or whatever is needed.
And I will say, I think that he's using Jess in that capacity as well, so we're able to leverage her time.
Great.
If I misspoke, please bring your time. All right, so Emmanuel, I want to get back to what you were just saying in terms of a timeline. So are you proposing that we target a date in November? Does that sound reasonable to you?
Yeah.
Okay. Thoughts? I see some nodding. Crystal, oh,
Just real quick, before you all decide, I just have a quick question. When I look at equality, diversity, and inclusion, with the video be...
sir, I'm sorry, would you mind coming up
Oh,
here
I'm
so we can get you on the mic? And if you would share your name with us so we can greet you properly.
Hello, everybody. My name is Leonard Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor.
And my question is, when I look at, your title, and the video that you all are talking about, would it be informative? As a committee where you all may have identified these needs for the community, like numbers and employment, where the minorities stand, home ownership, where the numbers stand, business owners, and then maybe come up with a plan on how you all can enhance the numbers that may be low. And, maybe that's one of your mission statements. Like you say, since this stemmed from a situation, and I'll just use the term minorities, because that's a broad number, covering the cultures. But as a resident, for the city, I think it'll raise awareness into maybe where it can create more participation and attendance to this committee. Okay.
Thank you. That's an excellent point. Jess, I think we've just found some homework for you. I know that you're looking through census data, but perhaps you could take a look at the GIS information with Summit County, and I don't know how much of that you're going to be able to get demographics from.
I don't know that the GIS at the county level has demographic information on home ownership and stuff. It's probably going to come more from probably the census data than it will anything.
Does census include whether or not they own the home
It includes overall amount your home is valued at. I didn't see a breakdown, individually, I don't think the summary included what you're looking for.
Okay.
I just asked Akil with his real estate connections, he says there's some data he can gather on that for you, so.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. And look at that. Everybody brings something unique to this committee. So I'm going to ask that you connect with Akil and find out what information we can get for our area for home ownership demographics and bring that to our next meeting in October. Thank you. All right, so we're back to our timeline question.
You also mentioned business owners.
Oh, yes. And I don't know that that's something that we would be able to get from realtor. I don't know, Jess, can we ask you to just see what's out there in terms of business ownership for our area?
For minority business ownership, that would be used as vendors for the group?
I think, Mr. Taylor, if I'm correct, you're just saying in general.
Just
In
in
the city
general.
of Twinsburg, what's
Okay.
the number of minority business owners? Agriculture, Indian, there's your numbers there. And let you know what areas need to maybe be improved, or marketing.
I'll see if I can find that information.
I said all categories, home ownership, different cultures.
No, those are great points. And I will also say, I think the Better Business Bureau is now certifying minority-owned businesses. At least they've been reaching out to us for some of that information. So that may be a resource for you as well.
The Chamber of Commerce and the Secretary of State's office are the other two places.
Real quick, if there's still one last, like I say, for you guys to know is employment, minority employment in the city of Twinsburg. Start, at City Hall and work it down, look at the numbers.
Yeah, and that we have access to. Thank you. Back to November.
So one thing, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, November seems reasonable to me. I don't wanna, sign, I don't know where Michael is, right, in terms of his process. And obviously, it sounds like, based on where he stands, there's gonna be some other decisions that kind of cascade from that, so I don't wanna say, hey, November 15th, but based on what I know now, my very limited knowledge, that sounds reasonable.
Mayor?
Do we need, Dave, do we need to do an RFQ on something like this?
We need an estimate, depends on what we
Yeah.
believe the cost to be, if it's over under 25,000, then over under 50.
Yeah, so one of the things we're working on right now, in the private sector, you just write a check. We are Michael's budget is, very tight to the year end. We have put in kind of a placeholder that he's proposed for 2021. So, to say, let's try to work through maybe that by November, define the process, but probably a formal engagement may not be until we get into the beginning of next year. So that's the thing that we're working with right now, is the budget side of everything.
If the scope of work is facilitating a work planning session and some action items coming out of that, that could definitely be less than $25,000.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
And definitely can get done like in the next month and a half. I do this work for other causes, and I know that there are consultants that can do this in short order and will not break the bank.
No,
Yeah.
and there, again, I have some spending authority. Finding the budget that it'll come out of is a different question, but, there is some spending authority that if we do want to bring in someone for a work session and it's, whatever, $5,000, we can figure out a way to make that happen this year. But a more formal engagement for a period of time, I'm sure is going to be an increased expense that we'll just have to budget for properly.
Okay. So Mayor, I'm gonna quote you because I heard $5,000. But it sounds like we are safe to set a timeline for that initial conversation, but in terms of an engagement beyond that, we should hold off until we know what's gonna happen next year's budget.
No, I think we can still pursue the process. Pursue the process, whether that engagement exceeds $25,000 or whatever that number ends up being. But in terms of when it's paid would be potentially the next year. We always have the ability to go back to council for a formal budget amendment. There's usually very limited circumstances we try to do that, but that is, I don't want to slow the process down because of the budget. I just want to make you kind of aware of what we're doing behind the scenes to facilitate it, that's all.
No, we appreciate that. Because what you're not saying is no.
No, we're not saying no.
I'll take no. Okay, so.
But I don't think we were thinking $25,000.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That sounds like somebody we're gonna get to commit for a long term. So I don't, but you know what? I don't know what the going rate is. I think Crystal's probably the best.
I think as we go through this process, you all have more experience than I do. Finalizing what that scope's gonna be and what that engagement looks like and the time we're gonna be expecting that person to be here and away from here doing work for the committee. That's just kind of what we probably need to define.
Yeah. So perhaps that is what we define for November. We're back to November, folks. Yeah. We're gonna come out of here with a date. So the question is, what is that date and what do we want to accomplish by that date? Floor is open. Manuel, I'm coming back to you.
I'm agreeing with Greg that November is the date for right now, until we have some more information. Right. Well, yeah. Yes, it's the month.
Do we want to pick a day within that month? Is it 30 days? I gotta do this thing on my notes.
We can pick a date as long as we don't.
Well, so November 8th is the full Jedi Committee meeting, which is the first Monday of November, just as a date on the calendar. I'm sorry, it's the second.
I know Michael's looking right now for names to have a conversation with, so if you know anyone too, just feel free to just send that to him so that he has all potential,
So should we say as a committee, we're gonna commit to sharing the folks that we know within a week? Can we make that happen? Okay.
And with
then-
the expectation that, hey, we want these things done by mid-November or something.
Expectations. Let's go with an ask.
Ask.
All right, so today is Monday, September 13th. That's about almost 2 months. So do we feel comfortable with saying we'll walk into this November 8th meeting and feel like we have some direction on who is going to facilitate the meeting and from there schedule it?
Seems reasonable.
To me too.
Does anybody
What-
not agree with that? Mayor?
No, I agree with it. I was just gonna throw out, as we look toward what that work session may look like, I mean, there is the possibility, there's not necessarily here, but, we could do kind of a retreat kind of thing where we bring this person in for a half a day and allows the committee to kind of get away from here, get away from mics, get away from everything, and just have a half-day work session with an individual, something like that.
And I don't want to misquote him, but I think that's kind of what Akil was saying. Like, at this point, we've committed to doing this, we need to be willing to commit that kind of time.
Okay.
And I don't think there's anybody here who's not. So I like that idea of really separating from everything else and having that person guide us and really drill down and figure out what it is that we need to focus on so we can move in the right direction. Or continue, because it sounds like we at least started in the right place. Thanks, Jeff. All right, so, Chair will entertain a motion that on November 8th, we will revisit this topic and schedule a work session / retreat. Anybody want to make that motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mayor. Second?
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. All right, the motion carries. We are at 6:55, and unless there's anything else, we're on to subcommittee reports. Justice and Police Relations?
Nothing really to report. I'm going to get my information to Jess, and our next meeting is September 27th.
Excellent. Andrea, City Employment Diversity?
I don't think so. No.
And then we will revisit community outreach as a whole, I think. All right, anything else in terms of subcommittee reports?
Yeah, so there is a community subcommittee meeting scheduled for next Monday. If I'm hearing you correctly, we're just gonna not have that meeting and we're gonna readdress it as a whole? And I'm not putting you on the spot, LaBelle. I'm just,
I'm thinking, and I
Yeah.
hope you guys are as well, in terms of the utility of that.
I don't think there's a ton. That's, I'm happy to have that meeting.
I'll be on a beach, so.
Yeah, so,
I'm not gonna have a golf outing.
yeah.
No, I agree. I think, as Andrew said, we need to really define what the community outreach is gonna be, and I think we need to do that as a whole. And whether we break that down into subcommittee once that gets drilled down, but again, like you and I discussed earlier, we haven't met once, and so it's been hard. Like, we met,
There were
one
two of
time,
us.
the two of us, yeah, we kind of talked about a couple different things, but we just need to, I think, drill that down, and, so I guess we'll keep the committee active, but until the whole group decides what focus do they want us to take, and it may be more focused on the survey side of things, or doing things that can help, where the committee members are spending time and they're kind of drilling down and trying to figure out what do we want to get, what kind of information we want to get from the community. We're doing that on the police side, we're doing it on the employment side, but.
I agree with that. So what I'm hearing is, we're gonna suspend those individual community subcommittee meetings until after our November 8th meeting. That sounds about right.
That's reasonable. Yeah.
Does anybody disagree with that?
Just for community outreach.
Well, you know what? I think we'll defer to each chair for how you would like to handle your subcommittee meetings, because I think you both have expressed the need to meet with the consultant.
Yeah, my thought for my group which, you know, Michael and I worked together on it, is that I would like those applications or information about the consultants to come to our group, and then we can make a group assessment of who we would like, and why we would choose that person. I don't think it should just be Michael's responsibility to choose that. And I think that, you know, this group to me is a little bit confusing, and just because the city employment diversity really works and involves the city of Twinsburg employment. So we do look, we do look at the data of the city's employment. So we have, you know, how many people are in the service department, how many people are in the police department. We have all of those numbers in their demographics and how that goes down. And Michael has done a marvelous job as the HR to get more diverse people into the city employment. With that, we've also been asked questions about new hires. How are we recruiting? How are we hiring? Where are we recruiting? And those issues and information. And there's a little bit of it's blending together whether or not we're working for the city versus we're community members in this committee helping the city. And it's kind of a little bit confusing. So in this hand, we're asking Michael to be the HR director and hire our consultants, but I don't think that should solely be his job, because he has a full-time job already within the city. So I do think that at our next committee meeting, I would like those applications to come to our group, and we as a group on this committee decide who that consultant is and how we want that consultant to work within this group. I think I've asked for a consultant, actually, I think the second meeting of this committee over like 11 months ago, because I think it's extremely important for that person to take the numbers, to take our community numbers, as you were saying, whether it's how many barber shops do we have here versus, you know, how many school teachers, where are our neighborhoods, where are minorities, how are we spread out, and really be able to look at that information and figure out where what we're missing. And that's what the consultant can do. And then that can guide us onto what our action plan is and how we move forward. So I would still like to have our city employment diversity committee, because I think that it should not be put on Michael, and those applications that Michael has should be shared with the group. So that's kind of my opinion on that.
Okay, so city employment diversity will continue to meet. And
that's the point. After my 5-minute dissertation, we are still going to be meeting.
So that's good. We have context.
I'll run it by the rest of our committee.
Okay.
And then come to a conclusion.
And we're the third
Actually, the first, so your next meeting for the city employment is gonna be October 4th, which if you guys give Michael the consultant names in the next week that you guys know, that'll give an additional 2 weeks for him to gather that maybe and provide that at that meeting.
That would be great. All right, so anything else for subcommittee? Reports, comments, otherwise. Oh, sorry.
Yes, that's okay. I have something. I'm on the City Employment Diversity Committee, and I just don't want this to be a conflict of interest, because this is what I do on the side. And currently, there's a company on Summit Parkway or whatever, African American. You know, I've been working with him, so now he's employed at this company, and I think he's the only African American in the office on the first floor. Also, I'm working with another company on, what is that on? I think it's on Route 82, and the city of Twinsburg uses it too. And so they're hiring another African American, you know, that I am recommending. So I just don't want what I'm doing on the side to be a conflict of interest on this.
Got you. So
That's all I'm saying.
I will ask is, in the event that something comes to a vote that you have a conflict in, that you recuse yourself.
Okay, all right.
And I don't think anybody disagree with that. Okay.
So I just wanted to say that if you know of anyone and not let it be a conflict of interest, I know quite a few people who can hire African Americans or who want to hire them, I'll put it like that. That's all I have to say.
All right. Anything else? Last call. Subcommittees?
I think with the justice and police, we should definitely keep that going. Police in this community is 24/7 job. There's always things happening, not only here, but nationwide that we can be discussing. That gives a platform for residents that come in to those committees. I believe we're opening those up to residents. So it's a smaller setting where residents can come in and have those conversations with us. I think to just suspend those wouldn't be a good thing for our mission of what we're trying to accomplish here. So.
Great point.
That's the way I was feeling. But I wanted to make sure that the entire group felt the same way. But that's the way I was leaning, so.
Excellent. We are here for the folks. So it sounds like, with the exception of the community subcommittee, everybody, we're going to continue business as usual, and hopefully revisit that as soon as we're able to get our consultant in and have that conversation. Okay. All right, really last call now. Lauren? All right, any unfinished business that we have not discussed? Hearing none, any new business? Anybody would like to bring before the committee? All right, finally, anything miscellaneous that we've not covered?
No, I just I want to thank Mr. Taylor for showing up today. And I don't know if you mentioned it, he's on our Civil Service Commission.
He did not mention that.
So we only have 3 people on our Civil Service Commission. We had a meeting this morning, so he was here at 8:30 and now he's back here tonight. So
kudos to you, Mr. Taylor.
So he is one of our three residents that's on civil service. So they review appointment hiring, civil service rules. He's been involved in that. He's been on a number of years. He's been chairman of that committee in the past. So he does have some pretty intimate knowledge of the hiring of the city. So feel free to drag him into your subcommittee.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor, for volunteering.
That's it.
That's excellent. And we do also want to thank the other folks who have come. You're welcome anytime for any of the full committee meetings or the subcommittee meetings. We're happy to see you. So thank you for sharing your evening with us.
Do you guys know Karen?
I don't know
No? Karen Levy's she was appointed as Ward 3 councilwoman. So she is now going to be running unopposed, so we're very optimistic that she will win and be seated right here for another 4 years. So, yeah.
Welcome, Karen. Thank you for coming. What do you have with you?
My guess is Christian.
Sorry.
My guest tonight is Uma Krishnan. My daughter had her as a preschool teacher when you were getting your doctorate, Uma? Is that correct? She's a professor at Kent State. She's the most intelligent woman I know. So I think I wanted her view on diversity and on the committee, so I welcomed her to the meeting, and we'll share discussion after. So.
Thank you. We appreciate that. Yeah. And thank you for coming, and feel free to share any thoughts that you have with us as well.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And
yes, welcome to the microphone.
follow the protocol. First of all, thank you for all that you're all doing. Truly appreciate that. And you're creating a wonderful awareness within the community. And there were a couple of points I did take down, and I will just, if you don't mind, I don't want to keep anybody's time, but I will share it with Karen. But a couple of things that I thought was, as a community member, I have been in this community, I've raised both my kids, and I have Maureen here, who can tell me both my kids were raised, we didn't move out of Twinsburg, we love this community. We've been here for the longest time, I don't know, 30 years, whatever. So I would like to point out a couple of things. If the community members can become aware in a very informative way. A couple of ways how you can outreach them would be to provide information about the demographics, as Mr. Taylor said, employment, residents, school students. See, we never think about school students because I deal with students every day, in and out. That's my life. You have to hear their voices too. It's very pertinent, especially high school students. And the role the teachers play in shaping them, the awareness they create in the community. So I think reaching out to them and bringing somebody from the schools, and students are very involved, so I think you should hear their voices too. So I would suggest think about that. And then of course, a couple of things, creating awareness, leave messages on voicemail, that's always worked, pamphlet that discusses the mission of this committee, video that speaks about DEI and local people, student involvement, social media discussing accomplishments of this committee, because you're all going towards a certain goal, and I love what you're doing as a committee. So I think those are awareness that should be brought to the people, because as a Twinsburg community person, I didn't know until Karen talked to me that this was happening behind the scenes. So even a little pamphlet that's left out in everybody's mailboxes saying, hey, Twinsburg is doing something for the community. It's not like they're just sitting behind and not doing something. Creating awareness in a different way. So, campaigning. So, thank you. That was my 2 cents worth, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
Yes.
And I have to mention, without further, our police is just so awesome. I never get a chance to say that. Kudos to the work that you all do. So truly appreciate that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's good.
Before we adjourn, I just got one last, real quick.
Yes.
And I said it in the commissioners meeting this morning to our chief. My first time seeing this committee was last week on a video, YouTube. And it raised awareness to me because with Jeremy and Sergeant, when you was questioning about the active shooting and training, and they went in detail. And what I told Chief is parents, I don't have any children in the school system, but parents with children in school, if they see that, they'll know that our law enforcement is well trained. And even heard how they use some of the students in the school, the role play. But I said, if other parents that didn't know about it, with maybe smaller kids can see, what our law enforcement is in the city, then they would feel, a lot safer for their children and to raise awareness to them also.
Absolutely.
That's it. Right there.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. I will say, as a mother with 4 children, 1 who graduated in 2020 and the other 3 still in the system, it's quite comforting to me to know these guys and to know Jim. So I have to say, there's nothing I can say that's better than that. Does anybody else have anything you'd like to add?
I have one thing. I will want to say that the school system has their own diversity board filled with community members, and so maybe that's something that community outreach can propose, is meeting with that group as well to see how we can work together. Because if you're talking about students, they have their own board, own diversity committee that they also created around the same time, and they are 2 separate things. But collaborating with them and seeing who they're working with might also help this committee as well.
Absolutely. I'll bring a couple of them to the next meeting, because they need to be great. I've got a junior and sophomore. All right, anything else? All right, hearing none, it's 7:12 p.m. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.